He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to the Coast View. This is a show that celebrates the men and women who make coastal Mississippi a great place to live, work, and play. Someone asked me the other day again, why did we call it the Coast View, V-U-E? Well, I have to give my wife, Ann, a lot of credit because she went on a mission to name this show with me. And when she found that word view, V-U-E, and the definition, there are a lot of different definitions, but the one that really appealed to me and us was the visual perception of a region. And that just fits so perfectly. I want to thank you for listening or watching live on YouTube or Facebook. We appreciate you. My goal is to entertain you, is to give you a gift each morning that is inspiring. Inspiration, there's been a lot of inspiration on this show. I also want you to gain a great appreciation for what it takes to build a great region and the kind of leaders that it takes to build a great region. This morning, I've got a really special guest, Adele Lyons, the Chief Executive Officer for the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce, or the Coast Chamber, as it is often called. She is extraordinarily strong and a knowledgeable leader around issues facing coastal Mississippi. She's made so many contributions throughout her career. You're about to understand why I say that. Welcome to the Coast View and SuperTalk studio, Adele.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So I told my daughter last night, she said, Dad, who's on the show tomorrow? I said, Adele Lyons. Oh, man, she's going to be great. You have a lot of fans, don't you?
Yeah, that's nice. Nice to hear from Tori.
Yeah, Tori, as you know, is a teacher at St. James. Mm-hmm. She loves teaching. And we're so proud of her. She's just a terrific teacher. One of the things I noticed in preparing for the show today, we've known each other for a long time. Mm-hmm. We've worked together when I was publisher of the Sun Herald and the Knight Foundation and other venues. But this has given me a chance. The show has been a gift because they get a chance to focus on you for the time leading up to the 24-hour clock starting before we have our conversation. But it gives me a chance to focus on you, to learn more about you, maybe things I didn't know. And I always learn something new about our guests that I didn't know. I mean, this opportunity has been incredible. The thing I'd say about you is that you've been focused on striving to be the next best version of yourself in every job that you've had. Is that fair?
That's very fair. I've really been blessed. I've never had a job that I didn't love. Mm-hmm. I never, gotta go to work. Never felt like that. I always really felt like it was something that was a good fit for me, and it was a good fit for the community, and just how to move forward.
Yeah, I was always the same way. Just always very passionate about what I did. That's, people say that the key to success is, first of all, you got to love what you do. And it's always been evident that you have loved what you did. The thing that really stuck out was that in each step of your career, you were focused on learning something really significant. It might have been about volunteerism. It might have been about building business plans. It might have been about running a nonprofit, organization. But you've always been focused on learning. I guess, I've always said the more you learn better learn how much you don't know, right?
Oh, absolutely. I've worked in nonprofits for a long time, but there's always something new, something changing. I don't know how you can't, look forward like that as to what is there to learn today, what's there to learn tomorrow, and how is what I'm learning today going to affect tomorrow? Yeah.
Okay. So you did a short stint in the private sector, but you spent the majority of your career in the nonprofit sector. And as I mentioned to you offline, that's kind of unusual. Usually you see people who worked in the private sector for most of their career, and then, at the end of their career, they make a contribution. Or they work in the nonprofit community for a short period of time at the beginning of their career, and then they go to the private sector. But you spent the majority of your career in the nonprofit community.
And it just kind of worked that way. It wasn't something I really ever planned. Certainly the structure of the organizations were always nonprofit, but I always tried to run them like a business. That's the way to have a successful nonprofit, that certainly you have revenue coming in, you have expenses, and then how do you grow that program, just like how would you grow your business and grow your customer base. Mm-hmm. But I never really planned to continually be in the nonprofit. I got a business degree. I thought I'd work in business, which I feel like I have, like I mentioned before. But it's it's been a good ride, certainly. And in some ways, every place I've been is very well, it's all connected.
You and I both admire Alberto Ibargüen. What an amazing
man. The smartest man I think I've ever met, and I was super intimidated by him when I first met him, because he was just commanded a presence, certainly, and just I learned a lot from him. Former
publisher of El Nuevo Herald and Miami Herald, and the current chief executive officer for the Knight Foundation, which we'll talk about the Knight Foundation coming up. Mm-hmm. But in the conversation I had with Alberto on this show, if you didn't see it, you can go to the Facebook page or to the SuperTalk Mississippi YouTube page to see it. But he, at the beginning, we talked about the importance of a strong nonprofit community. I mean, you really get that, don't you? That in order to have a strong region, it's critical to have a strong nonprofit sector.
Yeah, and I think we really saw that after Katrina in the biggest way. And there was a lot of hesitation from some of the other larger, if you'll remember, foundations in the country that came through. Felt like our nonprofit, they were afraid we didn't have the capacity to handle some of the grants that they thought they might want to make. And I think we showed them differently that we have a lot of capacity, and you have nonprofits that really take on some tough subjects and some tough issues. And we, as a community, ask them to do that. Mm-hmm. The government can't do everything. Individuals can't do everything. But we've got a strong nonprofit in this region that takes on all sorts of issues.
I think Katrina probably made them stronger.
Absolutely.
And the opportunity to create the Knight Nonprofit Center was a real enabler in terms of creating synergy and the opportunity to be creative together. And, again, we'll talk a little bit more about the Knight Foundation and its contributions. You grew up in Biloxi. You're a Biloxi girl.
I am, born and raised. My parents still live in the same house that I grew up in. Great neighborhood, big family. 7 kids in my family.
And your dad had 7.
My dad had a large family as well, brothers and one sister. And so there's just a few of those Lions, uncles and guys still hanging around. But just a large family, a lot of cousins. So it's a great way to grow up.
Isn't it awesome to be able to do what you do in the community where you grew up?
Well, it is. That's one thing I think I've mentioned to you before about working for, I know we're going to talk about Knight Foundation later, but in some ways that was the best job I ever had, was making grants and helping the community. But in the other way, it was really a tough position because I knew so many of the people that were asking for funding and had great projects that we had to say no to. Mm-hmm. And when it's your cousin or your neighbor or somebody you went to elementary school with,
it's hard to say no.
That's a tough no. But when we explain why it was a no, people seem to understand that and get that. But
so you grew up in Biloxi and your mother worked, but it didn't get in the way of her having you involved in everything as a child. And that had a big influence on you, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, my mom was a registered dietitian and she worked, all day long. A lot of my friends' parents and mothers didn't work. But I found, and I look back, that my mom was the Brownie troop leader and she was the PTA president, and she was involved in so many things. And, she drug us right along with her. I can remember being at the Sanger Theater, the night before a play was going to open, and we're helping stock the concession stand. And I'm sure some people thought, why did Barbara Lyons drag all these kids down here? They're running around like crazy. But, I think we did contribute, I hope, a little bit of something.
So she was teaching you early in your life about giving back to the community.
Yeah, it was about being involved with the community just from the get-go.
Wow, that's so cool. Your first job was at Big Star?
I was a cashier at Big Star on Howard Avenue. Then it became the Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
And that was in the old days where you actually had to ring things up. There was no scanner, And that was a pretty cool job. It was fun. Again, kind of a local grocery store. Wasn't like the big Walmarts or anything. So you knew everybody coming in and out of there. A lot of the shrimp boat captains came in and got their load for the whole, week or where they were going to be out shrimping. And that would be a huge order, and it was kind of fun, cashiering down there.
My daughter Tori's goal in life when she was like 3 or 4 was to be a cashier. She had her little store set up, and she would ring it all up. It was fun watching her, aspire to do something like that. So you went on to USM in 1982.
Graduated from Mercy Cross. Was in the first graduating class at Mercy Cross. So that was kind of a cool experience as well, having gone to Sacred Heart and then the schools merged, and went to USM. Just really felt very comfortable there, loved it, was a business major, loved the football, still do to this day, go Eagles to the top, and just very comfortable there. And then I stayed there to get my MBA. When I graduated, I knew I wanted an MBA, and I was like, you know what, I'm here, I have a roommate, I have a place to live. I'm going to go ahead and stick it out and get my MBA.
You actually did an internship working with Becky Montgomery, which, we're going to come back to this after the break, but Becky had a really big influence on you that
Absolutely.
Really sort of ultimately defined where you're going to go with your career.
I learned a lot from Becky. She's a great mentor and still a very good friend today.
Yeah, she's a very special woman. We have Adele Lyons, who's the Chief Executive Officer for the Coast Chamber. And, she's from Biloxi and has worked in so many important nonprofit roles. We're going to go through those after we come back from the break. But what an inspiration Adele is. Like I said, she's got a lot of fans, and as you listen to this conversation, you'll understand why. We'll be back right after this break.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Just like money in your pocket, that's super fun. When you trade with us, you always get our best. Super deals are why, whether you sell or buy. We cash checks, we pay bills, we make loans like no one will, and help you keep your pockets filled. Just like money in your pocket, that's super fun.
You may have heard people say the best thing about Double Shop is their CBD selection, which I will say is superb. Expertly selected and endorsed by physicians, along with their selection of herbal products. And their selection of smoking accessories department is gigantic. But what they forget is Double Shop's titanically massive beer selection. Double Shop has the largest selection of beer in the state. Domestic, craft, micro, local, you name it, they have it. And if they don't have it, they'll try and get it.
Have you recently heard someone say how great Double Shop's beer selection is? Their beer selection is pretty fantastic. They carry everything legally allowed. But the real reason Double Shop is such a fun store is because they have everything to make life fun. Happy. Great hookahs, smoking accessories, herbal supplements, and physician-recommended CBDs. Not to mention wines and spirits.
Everyone loves Double Shop for their own reason. Come find your reason. Double Shop, Ocean Springs North at Exit 50. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company helps you customize your home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Unlike things you paid for you didn't need, like the Vacnado 2000. A Wi-Fi connected vacuum that uploads Dust Bunny data to the cloud for real-time optimization. Whatever that means. But really, it's just a very expensive doggy chew toy. With Liberty Mutual, get customized home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
Hot Mississippi summers and hurricane seasons are a big part of life on the coast. Solar Control is here to help. Solar Control, the coast exclusive 3M window film dealer since 1975, specializes in commercial, residential, and automotive window tinting. 3M window films reduce up to 78% of the sun's heat and reduces unwanted glare. 3M safety and security films protect you and yours from destructive weather and crime. Visit Solar Control in Ocean Springs on Bechtel Boulevard. Call 872-0805 or visit solarcontrolinc.com.
This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
To Coast View, we've got Adele Lyons here, the CEO of the Coast Chamber. We're having a wonderful conversation about how she got started. And when we left from the break, Becky Montgomery. Who is Becky? Explain who Becky Montgomery is.
Well, at the time, Becky Montgomery was the director of the Small Business Development Center at USM, which is a program of the SBA, Small Business Administration. And but Becky has had a pretty cool. She's somebody you certainly need to get over here. United Way of South Mississippi, Harrison County Development Commission, the community college. She worked there for their foundation. And then finished up her career at Mississippi Power. Becky was in the National Guard, and that's a story in itself. You should hear from her. But Becky was the first kind of real boss that I had, and she just taught me a lot. And, I'll tell you one quick story. She was off on National Guard drill, and when I first started, so I get there, I don't even have a boss, and there's this guy who worked there, and he said, hey, get me a cup of coffee. And I said, if I'm going to get myself coffee, I'll be happy to get you one, but I'm not getting up from my desk to go get that for you. That's not my, not my job here. And I don't like that when you say that's not my job. I mean, I'm pretty much going to do anything.
Right.
But and when Becky got back, I told her, and she said, no, that's perfectly fine. And she said, you're not, that's not what you were hired to do. You're an MBA student. You're here working on business plans and helping, businesses grow. And, right then we just kind of had a connection, and she's just taught me a lot, been a great mentor and somebody who is just such a caring individual.
So you did that essentially an internship with her, and then you went to Jackson to work in the private sector for the only time after Big Star that you worked in the private sector.
Yeah, I got offered a job with Beach Aerospace Services as a government contractor, and I was hired in the contract administration department, and they maintained airplanes all over the country, all over the world, and I helped negotiate contracts. And it was really, I was so in over my head, but I was naive. I was young, and I was like, I could do this. And, I learned pretty quickly. But living in Jackson when you're from the coast, I just kept saying, where's the water? And they'd say, oh, go out to the reservoir. And I said, that's not real water. Where's the Gulf? Where's the breeze? So that was a good learning experience in the private sector. But when Becky called me and there was a full-time position at the Small Business Development Center and said, do you want to come home? I was like, I'm on my way. The car's packed. I'm down 49 already. It was good to get home and get back to the place I loved and back to a job that I really enjoyed, working with the Small Business Development Center.
So what did you do in that new job?
Well, folks came in when they wanted to start a business, and back then we actually helped put together SBA loan packages. So that was almost like you were in banking and finance. But really it was talking people through their ideas and helping them kind of have a reality check of, is this business viable? And have they thought through? Most people think, oh, I'll spend $100 a month on advertising and think they're going to be on TV, radio, newspaper, and you're like, nah, you need to check that out. That's not quite how that's going to go. A real cool project I worked on there was the Walter Anderson Museum. It was just getting, it was in the concept phase, and we had to put together a plan for them to take to the community to say if this many visitors are going to come and what's going to be the economic impact of this museum. And that's what they used to go out and kind of raise money and get the community on board with it. So that was a real neat project.
You saw a lot of successes, didn't you? You learned a lot about what makes a business tick.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of the early preparation, and that's why it's called a business plan, planning ahead. It always amazed me that people would buy a house and they would, make sure is there enough rooms? Does the air condition work? Does it flood when it rains? But people decide on a Sunday night to start a business and expect on Monday morning to be wide open and good to go. And it's like, no, you got to do that same planning and preparation. And the people who spent time on their business plan were the ones that made the difference.
That made a huge difference. So to kind of move things along, though, you eventually applied to go work for the Knight Foundation.
I did.
So talk about that.
Well, it was after Katrina, and the Knight Foundation had a program director to represent the coast, but lived in Tallahassee, if you'll remember. And so went down to Miami for a full day of interviews. I mean, that was just nonstop, all day long, people coming in and out. And I ended the day with Alberto, and just very intimidated by this guy. And I'm not easily intimidated, but this guy was so smart, and he just was asking questions and firing off. And what I learned from him was, know why. He always asks you why. When you said you wanted to do something, well, why would you do that? And if it was just, well, it just seems like the right thing to do, he wanted to understand your thought process throughout that. Once you figured that out with him, you're good to go with him. But I really felt like it was important to have a national foundation have a presence on the coast, because we needed help, and we needed somebody who had connections, that also had the funding and the financing that they could bring for a variety of grants. So I started working with them, and there was stacks and stacks and stacks of grants that we could consider, but we had to be very much mindful of what grants were going to be made that were going to be transformational on the Gulf Coast.
We were very lucky. The Sun Herald was part of the Knight Ridder organization, and the Knight brothers, who established the Knight Foundation, usually played out in the communities where they owned newspapers. So that's how the Sun Herald and the Coast became really affiliated with the Knight Foundation. But after Katrina, Alberto took a special interest in coastal Mississippi. He was here within a week after the storm, helped to fund the Governor's Commission, gave money to nonprofits, helped to create the Knight Nonprofit Center. If you missed that interview, and you want to be inspired by someone who's a national scope type foundation, and to understand how passionate they are about what happens locally, go listen to that conversation. And the work that the Knight Foundation is doing today around journalism is extraordinarily important. And we continue to maintain a great relationship with Knight Foundation, even though you're not there any longer. You're in your role that you're in today. I mean, that learning, that opportunity really changed you, didn't it?
Yeah, it was. It really, you had to think big. You had to think big, but you also had to have that reality check as to what's going to work, what's going to move this community forward and sustain that for years to come. So we had people who'd want a water park or a splash pad type thing. And it's like, that's a great project for a neighborhood or a community, but that's not what we're looking to spend this money for. It's like, how are we going to get 5 bangs out of this buck to make a difference? And I think the Knight Nonprofit Center is a great example of that. I think you go look at that facility, there's 20 plus nonprofits there. There's meetings and people in and out of there all day long. I mean, every community should strive to have a nonprofit center.
What was interesting about your career, Adele, is for people who don't know this term, outcomes-based giving. That was actually emerging. We used to see the same organization come back for more money every year, and the nonprofit community as a general rule was changing, and the Knight Foundation especially was changing to be very focused on outcomes based. That was the reason why Alberto was saying, give me the why, help me understand. He wants transformation.
Absolutely.
What is outcomes based lending? Tell about that.
Well, it's looking at the investment and then what's going to be different in the end, and how does that transform or change or make the situation, the place, the organization better to grow on that. And so we always ask, you want this money, what is it for? And I'd have somebody say, well, to pay our salaries. But why? And they'd say, well, to run the programs. But why? Well, the programs are going to help the homeless. But why? And then you'd finally get to the answer was, you had homeless people living in the streets and, and so that's what really getting to. It wasn't that the money was to pay the salary. It was to solve that homeless problem. But you had to help people walk through that to get there. And that's what Alberto taught me, because I was the same way. At the beginning it was like, well, this would be a great grant. And he'd say, but why? And I had to kind of go through that same process. I remember on the Habitat for Humanity, the Jimmy Carter bill that you'll remember was here on the coast, I was like, we have to do this, just because housing was such an issue after Katrina. But Alberto, he said, but why? And I had to kind of keep going through the process, and finally came to the end that without housing in our community, people didn't have a place to live and work. They couldn't concentrate on rebuilding the community. They rebuilt their own lives. So it wasn't really housing. It was really, what housing's all about, so that people can go further.
So over the years, the Knight Foundation funded the Lynn Meadows Discovery Center, the Orr Museum. They believe the arts is a great way to engage the community, and they'll continue to make an impact here. You ultimately actually went to work for the Habitat for Humanity.
I did. Knight made some changes where they weren't funded in every community directly like they had been. They moved to the funding through the Community Foundation, which you're familiar with. And so Chris Monforton with Habitat for Humanity offered me a position. We worked very closely together on that big build and project, and that was a really cool job, a good place to work.
Well, what we're going to do when we come back, I want to talk about Habitat for just a few minutes and what you learned from Chris, because I know that he was a great mentor for you. You're watching this evolution of Adele Lyons as a nonprofit leader and the things she's learned along the way. And I hope you're as inspired as I am. You have to have people like Adele in this community who are going to give so much and continue to learn so much so that we can have the solid nonprofit community that we have today. So when we get back, we'll continue our conversation with Adele Lyons, the CEO of the Coast Chamber.
Subscribe for free to the Coast View podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
From the Singing River Electric and Coast Electric Newsroom, your news now.
State Auditor Shad White is taking what he says is the largest public embezzlement scheme in Mississippi history to the FBI. 6 people were arrested last week in connection with a multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme, including the former director of Mississippi Department of Human Services, John Davis. All 6 are accused of funneling over $4 million in TANF funds meant for the needy to their private businesses. After reports of dozens of people catching some kind of stomach bug after attending an event at the Coast Coliseum Convention Center, Director Matt McDonald says the area of the building has been thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. People who attended 2 separate events days apart from each other reported the same symptoms. Mississippi's health department hasn't identified the illness, but is investigating the possibility of a neurovirus. Time is running out to get registered to vote for the primary election. You have until 5 p.m. today to register at the circuit clerk's office. Primaries are March 10th. For SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1, I'm Kyle Curley.
Everyone in my family uses electricity differently. But when it comes to our Touchstone Energy Cooperative, we all think about it the same way. The co-op is power. Sure, electricity turns the lights on, but power is the information I get from my co-op about efficiency, safety, technology. And I trust the co-op because we are the co-op.
They're our neighbors.
Our friends. Our home.
Brought to you by Coast Electric and Singing River Electric, your Touchstone Energy Cooperatives.
Into esports? So is Big Play. Check out Big Play's brand new esports virtual reality attraction with cash prizes paid weekly and monthly. Guaranteed to pay $100,000 this year. Plus 2 massive arcades, bowling go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena bumper cars, and right now, get a $50 game card for $25. Visit SuperTalk MS Gulf Coast on Facebook and print on demand. Big Play Entertainment Center. Bowl, play, eat.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company helps you customize your home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Unlike things you paid for you didn't need, like the Vacnado 2000. A Wi-Fi connected vacuum that uploads Dust Bunny data to the cloud for real-time optimization. Whatever that means. But really, it's just a very expensive doggy chew toy. With Liberty Mutual, get customized home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
What would you do with extra cash? Take a bucket list vacation? Put in a pool? Pay off high-interest debt? Why not let the equity in your home pay you back for all the years you've paid into it? With Keesler Federal Credit Union's low-rate home equity loan or line of credit, you'll have the freedom and flexibility to do whatever matters most to you. Apply today at kfcu.org.
Available on primary residents only in Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, and Florida. Membership and credit eligibility required. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 408911. 11.
Since 1950, when you needed help and advice from an experienced attorney, you turned to Boyce Holloman and Associates. Standing on the principles of experience, integrity, and results, Boyce Holloman and Associates can help you and your family with a variety of legal matters. When you come to Boyce Holloman and Associates of Gulfport, every client, every case gets the level of service from attorneys and staff who honor the legacy of Boyce Holloman's tradition of excellence. See Dean and Tim Holloman at Boyce Holloman and Associates, 1720 23rd Avenue, Gulfport.
This is House Call for Health. Medical researchers spend years developing drugs to treat cancer, but it's possible the next big cancer-fighting breakthrough could already be in your medicine cabinet. Scientists have long known that a drug for one ailment can sometimes be effective in treating something else. Aspirin is the most famous example. Researchers at Harvard, MIT, and the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute tested more than 4,500 existing medications. They found 48 drugs that killed at least some cancer cells. These drugs are for several different conditions, including diabetes, inflammation, and alcoholism. One drug is used for treating arthritis in dogs. Researchers in the journal Nature Cancer said the medications sometimes worked in different ways than mainstream cancer drugs. Now they hope these drugs can be further developed into true new weapons against cancer. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
The Mississippi Power Weather Center. Your weather now.
Cloudy today with a 40% chance of scattered showers throughout the day. High near 70 tonight. Chance of rain down to 30%. We'll see some patchy fog develop after midnight. The low 63. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy once again. 40% chance of showers mainly after lunchtime. High near 73. 30% chance of rain tomorrow night. Low 63. Visit MississippiPower.com/ways to save to learn about programs and resources that can help you save energy and money on your electric bill.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. I've got Adele Lyons here with me this morning, the CEO of the Coast Chamber. And before the break, we talked about her time in various nonprofits, and we were about to shift gears and move into, she joined Habitat to Humanity after having a role in the Knight Foundation. But it occurred to us during the break, there's one more little example that we want to talk about the Knight Foundation's role. As I mentioned, they gave $1 million to the Governor's Commission on Recovery, Rebuilding, and Renewal, which was extremely important, but then continued to do grants throughout coastal Mississippi to help with various planning efforts. A great example, actually, that really speaks to the importance of these kinds of things was what happened in Gulfport. Talk about that, Adele.
Well, Brent Moore had been mayor for just like 2 months. Just came in July. Katrina hits. His whole city's, downtown is wiped out. There's the cargo containers all over the place from the port. And so Knight did a couple different grants. One was they provided some counseling and coaching to Brent on how to be a leader in this time of devastation, and brought some practices and procedures to the city of Gulfport that helped him kind of keep all the balls in the air. But the other big one that really paid off huge for downtown Gulfport as you see it today was a planning grant. I think it was about $130,000 to say, what do we want downtown Gulfport to look like? How do we want to change this? And I mean, physically, the facade of the building, the streetscapes, and everything. And so that was put together. And then HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, their community development block grant funds were available, but you had to have a plan. Mm-hmm. And here the city of Gulfport had a plan, and they knew what they wanted to do, and they were able to apply and get those funds. And buildings that were empty could still look nice from the outside, not a blight type situation. And it brought, you see today the number of restaurants and retail and activities that you see in downtown Gulfport. All really came from those grants. The streetscapes where they changed parking and medians with landscape and everything. And really, if you're going to rebuild your downtown, it was kind of like, what's your wish list of how you want to do this? And Gulfport was able to put that together and then able to move forward with the plan to really make that happen. And gosh, I don't remember the amount of money it was, but it was several millions of dollars to do that really changed, and that shows sort of the transformational side of what Knight was looking for.
So at the time, it was literally one of the largest facade programs in the history of HUD, wasn't it?
It was, absolutely.
And look what we have today in downtown Gulfport. It's amazing.
Yeah. And, overall, the Knight Foundation grants that I had worked on after Katrina, and you and others certainly, after Katrina, was about $14 million in total to this community. And I think, we're still seeing a lot of those, the facades, the War Museum, the Knight Nonprofit Center, I just can't say enough about. I mean, I work there every day, which is kind of cool to go back to a place that we helped create. But again, every community should try to have a nonprofit center.
So before we get too far away from Brent, first of all, his dad was so important to coastal Mississippi, and I believe that Gene War really was one of the original, ultimate volunteers, owning his, menswear store and just giving back to the community every opportunity that he could. And so, he was a great mentor for Brent. I became a huge fan of Brent. I know that when he came in, he was, he didn't have much experience, but the ultimate experience he got as a result of Katrina, and he didn't, curl up in a corner somewhere scared. He faced it head on. And a lot of his leadership we get to enjoy today because of the kind of things he put in place. So you joined Habitat and you worked for Chris. Talk about your time at Habitat.
Well, Habitat was an organization that really almost exploded, of course, after Katrina. It had been a small affiliate that had just built a couple of houses a year. Now there were literally thousands of volunteers wanting to come in. Chris came from Habitat International to the coast and took on the organization, merged some small affiliates together, and grew the staff almost overnight. And they were just working just nonstop, building hundreds and hundreds of houses. And when I came on board, things were starting to slow down a little bit. And what I mean by slow down was not as many volunteers were coming. You still had them, but it wasn't hundreds a week. It was maybe 50 or 60, which is still a huge number. And so we had to start looking at how we were going to make this a sustainable local organization. Up until that point, Habitat had received a lot of funding and grants from around the country, various organizations, but people were, moving on from Katrina. There'd been some other disaster somewhere else, and we were kind of taking that back seat, and it needed to be locally driven, which made sense. That's what needed to happen. So I get there and there's still a lot going on, but they're, working on the local development and having local people involved in the bills. And so today, one of the projects we worked on a lot and built was the Women Build project. That's getting ready to kick off right now. And that's where whole teams of women go out and build, and it leads up to Mother's Day. Part of the reason for that is because of the number of households that are led by women today. So that's a big project, and that's all local folks that are participating and raising money for that. The other big project, Chris is a big vision guy, super big vision guy. And I think I countered him because I could be sort of the reality check, is to say, this sounds great, but how about this and how about that? And we could talk through things. And so, today they've expanded. They're working with the Baldwin County Habitat for Humanity and got the Restore up on Highway 49. That was the last really big project I worked getting that kicked off. And every time I go in there, I'm just as proud as a peacock of that's working, and that just brings in some dollars to help sustain Habitat.
So this opportunity to learn how to engage volunteers, how to grow the volunteer base more organically locally as opposed to having people come in from the outside, that learning really was a great predicate for joining the Coast Chamber and getting involved as a leader of the Coast Chamber, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the Chamber is very much a volunteer-driven organization as well, and it's local volunteers, and it's people that want to participate and want to give back, that want to, they see it as a way to grow their business, but at the same time, you're helping grow the community. So there's no reason why you can't get two bangs for your buck.
So when you had the opportunity to join the Coast Chamber, did you think, man, the accumulation of experience up to this moment and this opportunity you have now, this is the right thing at the right time? Did you think that?
Well, to be honest with you, at first, Kimberly Nastasi had been there for a number of years, and she had grown that organization and moved to accreditation and really professionalized the Chamber like no other. It was really, the organization was just in a great place. And I was at Habitat and was pretty content there and happy there. And when Kimberly left to go to Ingalls, a couple people said, "Oh, you're applying for the chamber job," and I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty happy here. But I decided to go ahead for the interview, and once I started talking to the folks, and once I could hear myself answering the questions, I'm like, yeah, I do want this. I do think this is a good next move for me. And I had been a chamber volunteer. I'd been president of the Biloxi Chamber. I'd been a speaker, so it was someplace I knew and was comfortable. So it's really worked out well for me. It's something that it combined the business of the Small Business Development Center and the incubator when I worked there to kind of the volunteer side and of Habitat Night Foundation, all kind of coming together under one organization.
So, it's an extremely important organization to the coast, and it was you were in the right place at the right time, and they were lucky to have you. What's interesting, and this has been true of your career every step of the way, and every single person that I talked to, they didn't necessarily plan for this, whatever this next thing was. They just focused on doing extremely well in the current thing. And then opportunity just sort of made itself available to them. They are these, again, we refer to them as moments. And I mentioned to somebody, if I was going to write a book about what I've learned in 1 month, it's that the book would be called Moments. Are you ready for yours? Because if you're not out there, doing your thing and burning the midnight oil and learning something new, you may miss this next opportunity. But for you, it's been just a series of serendipitous things that have led you to where you are today.
Yeah, going back to the Small Business Development Center, Becky Montgomery was my boss. I was perfectly content there. And she's the one who came to me and said, there's an opening at the Small Business Incubator over on Pops Ferry Road, the Business Technology Center. I think you ought to apply for that. She's telling her employee, you ought to leave me and go work somewhere else, because she saw that as a growth opportunity for me and for that organization. And I've always, that's that attitude that I've tried to keep with my staff is, if something comes up that's better for you, that you need to take it. And I need to be supportive of you on that.
Early in my career, I read everything I could get my hands on about success and how to set goals and achieve goals. And I never will forget, Zig Ziglar in the book Top Performance said that if you help people get what they want out of life, you'll get what you want out of life. And it is so true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You probably can name many people who have worked with you that have gone on to do amazing things.
Yeah, I think you have to be mindful of the person, because it's going to come back in the end for you and for your world and their world.
Yeah, wow. What a great conversation. Anyone who listens to this can't help but be inspired and want to go find what they can do in the community. So when we come back, we're going to hit some high points about what's going on in the chamber these days. And then we'll have a final message for anyone who's thinking about getting involved in the community. Adele may have a message for you about that. We'll be back with Adele Lyons, the CEO of the Coast Chamber, after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to SuperTalkMSGulfCoast.com.
Great special going on now at ADCO Metals. 26-gauge acrylic-coated #1 grade Galvalume PBR or low-profile panel, $1.85 a linear foot, rolled to length. Order today, pick up today. We serve the North and South Shore in Louisiana and South Mississippi. Call ADCO Metals, 888-3222, or visit us at adcometals.com. When quality counts, count on the experts at ADCO Metals.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company helps you customize your home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Unlike things you paid for you didn't need, like the Vacnado 2000. A Wi-Fi connected vacuum that uploads Dust Bunny data to the cloud for real-time optimization. Whatever that means. But really, it's just a very expensive doggy chew toy. With Liberty Mutual, get customized home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Only pay for what you need. at libertymutual.com.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
Have you made your New Year's resolution yet? Resolve to make 2020 a year to remember with a new lifestyle. At Arbor Properties, you'll discover features, amenities, and services that are only found in an Arbor Properties community. Whether you're looking to actively unwind in one of 5 fully equipped fitness studios, enjoy the free fitness classes, or reserve a spot with a personal trainer, Arbor Properties is the place to conquer your fitness goals. Arbor Properties apartment homes features granite countertops, custom cabinetry, luxury flooring, and upgraded fixtures. Arbor Properties' resolution is to ensure your living experience is nothing less than exceptional. Arbor Properties isn't just a place to live, it's a way of life. Let Arbor Properties help make 2020 your best year yet. Find your new home at Arborview d'Iberville, Arbor Landing on the River in Biloxi, Arbor Place, Biloxi, Arbor Village at Pass Road Gulfport, or Arbor Station in Long Beach. Like Arbor Properties on Facebook.
Hello, my name is John Merrill, the owner of Amada Senior Care. We're your local trusted advisor for senior home care. We provide experienced caregivers for your loved ones so they can remain in their home. Just like you would care for your loved ones, our employees provide assistance with their personal care needs. As your trusted senior advisor, I can help your family navigate the long-term care insurance process. Just call me, John Merrill with Amada Senior Care, for your free in-home consultation, 228-254-3071.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
It's a great time to be on the coast, and we love talking about it. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back. We have Adele Lyons, the CEO of the Coast Chamber, with us, and we've taken her personal journey. And where we left it, she had joined the Coast Chamber. She talked about how she came to apply for that job. And so you got the job, Adele, and there's been no looking back, has there?
No, it's game on every day. It's always something going on. We do a ton of events, ton of activities, ribbon cuttings. I mean, this just runs the gamut.
What kind of staff do you have?
We have a total of 10, including myself, and we cover all of Harrison County. We've got 7 divisions: the Biloxi Chamber, Gulfport Chamber, Long Beach Chamber and Pass, the Coast Young Professionals, Leadership Gulf Coast, and our Coast Centurions Association, which is our military sport group. So we got a lot going on.
And then you have One Coast, the awards that I'm so happy about that we continue to have, that involves actually Jackson and Hancock County as well.
Yeah, that's something we do in cooperation with the other chambers, and that's just, we picked up where the Sun Herald left off on those awards, and we'll do the 10 community leaders and then 10 under 40. And we've had tremendous response to that, as always. A lot of applications, really tough for the judges to have to go through that and break down and figure out who those recipients will be, and that's on March 24th. So hope to see you there. And then, we always have our annual meeting coming up, and our Pat Santucci recipients from the past are usually there. So, like to see you get out and about at that too.
Yeah. I was proud to be a recipient of that award, and the Chamber has done such a great job of continuing to recognize leaders. So what else is high on your list?
Well, when I came into the chamber, one of the things that we had been involved with, but a little more on the back burner, was advocacy from a government relations, government affairs standpoint. And so Kimberly had started the pre and post legislative briefings, which are very well attended. People want to come here direct from those representatives and senators to tell us what's happening at the state legislature and what they thought was going to be coming up. We also do a lot of breakfast with the mayors and things like that so that people can have a direct contact with those elected officials. I mean, certainly you can go to city council meetings and those type of activities, but this really gives you an opportunity to directly ask those mayors questions. But we had some issues that we as the business community needed to really push on. And the main one that we really jumped full feet in was the BP settlement.
Mm-hmm.
Things weren't really moving. And we partnered and formed a coalition with the Gulf Coast Business Council and the other chambers to really say that money needs to be here on the coast. This is where the damages occurred. We fully knew we weren't going to get 100% of the funds, but at one point it really looked like it was in jeopardy of being spread around the state. And as a chamber, we just kept our members very informed, and we held various forums to keep them up to date, and we put out some newsletters. And in the end, it's worked out. The funds are set up to come here to the coast. There's a process they're going through right now. But I really felt like the chamber needed to dive into that.
And it's a good thing you did. And Ashley from the Business Council was on recently. If you look at there are transformational opportunities with that money. We're talking about, when you add up all the pots, about $2 billion coming back here, which is equivalent to sort of a Katrina kind of spurring of development opportunities. Before we get too far away and we're kind of nearing the end, I want you to talk about why it's important for people to be involved in the community. What's your urging of them?
Well, I don't think, first of all, don't wait to be asked. I think some people are waiting to be asked to join an organization or a committee. Don't wait to be asked. If that's something you're interested and passionate, let somebody know, hey, I want to get involved. And for the chamber, if that's joining a chamber and getting involved in the committee, because that's how we keep everything fresh. That's how we make sure that we're connected back to the community from the community members, and what direction do we need to head in. I think people also have to be realistic. You're not going to join the committee of the organization and be the chair of it the next day. There's folks who put in some time, effort, and energy, and you can learn from them. I always say that you have to make a deposit, before you make a withdrawal from your account. And so deposit your time, effort, energy, your expertise to those organizations. And that's everything from the chamber to the Humane Society, Feeding the Gulf Coast, United Way, Boys and Girls Club. I mean, there's plenty to choose from.
As John Harrison said, you have to do your reps. And as Jerry St. Pay said, you just don't decide you're going to lift 200 pounds. You have to build that muscle. And that's what you're saying. You have to get involved and work your way up and learn and do different organizations. And over time, you can become a leader in our community.
Absolutely. And, different things come up in people's lives where they do have to maybe step away. And it's great to have a deep bench that we can turn to the next person and say, can you fill in? Can you step up? Can you lead the charge on this effort? We can't have a deep enough bench.
We can never have enough leaders.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. That cannot be overstated. Well, we're nearing the end. It's amazing how fast time flies.
Yes, it does.
Adele, you are an inspiration to me. And
thank you.
That's why Tori said that's going to be great when she heard that I was talking to you. You have a wonderful reputation for someone who's willing to get their hands dirty and learn and contribute. And now that people have had an opportunity to hear your story, they can see why you've earned that respect. And the Coast Chamber is very lucky to have you. The employees of the Chamber are very, very lucky to have you. And, who knows what's next for you? I'm sure it's going to be the Chamber for a while, but who knows what, God's going to have for you next. So,
yeah, I'm pretty content there, but, you never know what's going to come up.
Okay, so it's been a wonderful conversation with Adele Lyons, the CEO of the Coast Chamber. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. And until then, have a great day.
Thank you.